All right, so thank you so much for having me on Magnetico 2022. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. As mentioned, I'm Anna Bertoldini, and I'm the Global Head of Employer Branding at NielsenIQ. And today I'm very excited to talk to you about how you can use storytelling as a way to empower and humanize your employer brand. So I have a pretty full agenda for today, so I'm going to jump right in. I'll talk a little bit about who I am and my story and how I got into storytelling, a little bit about NielsenIQ and our business. I'll jump into the power of storytelling and why you should use it for employer branding specifically. Then I'll talk about employee advocacy and inclusion, your checklist and steps to begin your storytelling journey, how to track success, and then I'll open it up to the Q&A session. So I'll start with this. I'm Anna Bertoldini. I'm a globally experienced professional in brand strategy, employer branding, marketing communications, and content management and development. What gets me out of bed every morning and what makes me love my job so much is the drive to help global companies build their brand and communicate their culture, mission, and purpose with authentic and effective storytelling. This is what I do in my mission as a professional. So how I got into storytelling myself, I discovered storytelling from a very young age from my own experience. I'm half Italian and half American. I was born and raised in Venice, Italy. My mom is from Buffalo, New York, and I kind of grew up between both countries. So I was raised in Venice, but then every summer for Christmas, I would go to Buffalo to visit my mom's side of the family and spend some time there. And I was influenced by both cultures, so I never really completely fit into either one. In Italy, I wasn't completely like everyone else. I felt a little bit different. And in the United States, I felt kind of the same, a little bit out of place, similar to everyone else, but not quite there. And so struggling during my adolescence trying to fit in, I decided to change the narrative. I decided to build my own story, my own personal narrative, taking the best of both cultures that really reflected who I was. And I started telling that story a lot more confidently. And I noticed that it fostered a lot more empathy, a lot more connections with people, and I made a lot more friends that way. So I found out the power of storytelling and being authentic and vulnerable from a very young age. And now fast forward to today, I share my story on LinkedIn, how I found my unique voice and how others can find theirs, as well as learnings from my career and personal life. And I also feel like I turned it into the job that I love, because employer branding is really communicating a company's unique voice through its people. So, and that brings me to my role at NielsenIQ. At NielsenIQ, I was hired about 4 months ago to lead our global employer branding and recruitment marketing efforts. My mission is to really bring our employer value proposition to life across our candidate journey and employee life cycle at its various touch points to keep attracting the best talent and retain that talent so that they are successful and thrive within the business. Like many employer branding professionals, I do a little bit of everything from managing social media, our career site, employee and candidate engagement, marketing campaigns, as well as brand strategy and reputation. So a little bit of everything, which allows me to collaborate with a lot of different people across the organization and really keeps my job exciting and on my toes, right? It's a little bit about NielsenIQ. If you know the Nielsen name, it's because it's been around for a long time. We were founded in 1923. Our founder, Arthur C. Nielsen, was one of the founders of market research, and he invented the breakthrough concept of market share to help brands understand how well they were selling compared to their competitors. So fast forward to 2020, NielsenIQ became a standalone company and rebranded. We keep investing in our technology, our people, and our unparalleled data sets. So it's a pretty unique point in time to join us and help us change the landscape. NielsenIQ provides the most complete and trusted view of consumers and markets in over 90 countries that cover over 90% of the world's population. And we're over 29,000 employees strong, spread across 90 countries, so we're a pretty global and international team. So our values and behaviors are really core to who we are, and I'm going to talk very briefly about these because they're really important. They catalyze our business strategy, and we know that demonstrating these values every day will lead us to success. Our 3 values are integrity, which means we're honest and trusted by our customers and each other. Responsibility, we're accountable and do what we say we'll do, and we value everyone's voice. And then passion, in which we aim to innovate and bring our unique contribution in everything that we do. And then our 8 behaviors that you see on the right-hand side, those are our values put into action. We have 8 behaviors, which is think like our customers, know our business, be inclusive and help others, be honest and transparent, keep your word, take ownership, make things better, and be courageous and aim high. Our behaviors are pretty much they help us foster a measurably winning culture every single day. But what I like most about working at NielsenIQ is the fact that I work with a pretty global and talented team, a supportive culture that makes me feel included every day and values you for who you are and what you have to say, no matter what. I feel like I have an impact in my work, a tangible impact each day, and I get to work with a lot of different people on different projects since the company is so big. So that's why I love working at NielsenIQ so much. And now I'm going to move to the main part of the presentation, how to humanize your brand through storytelling. I'm going to start with why storytelling. So why use this strategy to do employer branding, to do your work best. And I want to talk about the benefits of using storytelling. I'm going to divide it into two sets of benefits, which I think are important for the purpose of this presentation. The benefits of good storytelling for companies, and then how storytelling can also help and benefit employees. So for companies, you have a more authentic and engaging brand through storytelling. Stories are powerful and they resonate with people. And they're a lot more engaging because people really feel emotions when they see stories. They can relate to them. They're a source of great content, as you can pull a lot of content and mini stories from an overall narrative. You get to pick up and talk about trending topics by always kind of relating them back to your own unique perspective and story. And then you have more engaged and empowered employees because they feel like they're a part of something bigger. And then the benefits for employees is that they get to contribute to your company culture and play an active role. They have higher job satisfaction and a feeling of empowerment because they feel valued and visible. And then they get the opportunity to work on their personal brand. They become brand advocates and start sharing content online. And then they get that visibility and a chance to inspire others through that voice and through that content. So this is why I think storytelling will really benefit both your company and employees. And then this is one of my favorite quotes on storytelling. It's by Robert McKee, who is a screenwriting guru, a story author and lecturer. Storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. I'll talk a little bit about this soon, but storytelling to me is the most powerful way to communicate your ideas because it's not just stating facts, it's putting facts into context and creating those emotions in people that really get them engaged and interested and get that feeling of like me. So why using storytelling for employer branding? As many of you know, there's a war for talent nowadays, and it's a candidate-centric market. Top talent has a lot of choices when it comes to picking their next employer. So in order to distinguish yourself from other companies and leave a powerful impression on your candidates and reel them in, you need to tell a good story that resonates with them. Candidates need to get a feeling of like me when consuming your stories, which causes those emotions to flow. They need to get a feeling that they can work for your company, that visibility into what it's like to work for your company, so that they know that they'll belong and feel included. And if you think about it, the decision to join a company is largely driven by emotion. When a candidate looks at your recruitment marketing ad, when they see it and they click on it, that's driven by emotion. When they see your corporate site or career site and they find the content that they like and they decide to apply for a job, that's driven by emotion. When they had that first conversation with one of your recruiters or talent acquisition team, and they get that warm feeling and decide to continue with the interview process, that's driven by emotion. And then finally, when they speak to your hiring manager and team and want to work with those people, that's also gut feeling when they accept that job offer. So emotions are really important in storytelling and employer branding. And nowadays, candidates really want to know what it's like to work for you before they even join the company. They want to get that sneak peek into what it's like to live and breathe your working environment and what's going to energize them on a daily basis. So how can you give candidates that visibility from the outside? That's where empowering your people through advocacy really comes in. Because who can best tell your story? Your people, your employees. Employee advocacy is based on the principle that people listen to people. People really trust people. If you think about it, Elon Musk has a lot more followers on social media than Tesla does. And Bill Gates has a lot more followers than Microsoft. People really relate to people and they listen to them. And humanizing your brand is really the way to bring your brand to life. Employee advocacy bridges the gap between the company and the candidate by putting a face to your company name and the projects that you work on and the work that you do in general, so they can really bring your brand to life. And I want to talk about the importance of inclusion in storytelling as well, because that empathy that you want to create in candidates, that feeling of like me that I spoke about earlier, that can only come from candidates being able to see themselves within the story, within your company. And there are many ways of being human and telling a story. When an employee feels like they belong and they feel included and are satisfied in their job, they're going to become natural advocates. And if you have that diverse storytelling, candidates will be able to see themselves within your company. So representation is key. Everyone should feel included and be a part of the story. So in case you weren't convinced already, more reasons to use storytelling for employer branding. The first one is that messages delivered as stories can be up to 22 times more memorable, according to Jerome Bruner, who's an American psychologist. This is important because even if a potential candidate doesn't want to apply for a job today, you want them to remember your story and stay top of mind in the future. So a good story, if it's memorable, is a really good thing. Then 79% of job applicants use social media in their job search, according to Glassdoor. This is important because nowadays the majority workforce is millennial and Gen Z, and those people are on social media looking for information about your company. So you want to tell your stories on the right platforms. And then company content shared by employees gets 8 times more social media engagement than original company posts, according to social media today. This is important because we sometimes forget that employees have their own followings and own networks on social media. So if they publish content about your company, that's pretty much free organic exposure for you. And it's a lot more credible than company generated posts because you can create the best brand messaging from your company profile, but it's not going to be as authentic as one person from your employees speaks up about how great it is to work for you. So those people are going to get a lot of visibility, a lot of engagement. And then finally, the #1 obstacle in the application process is not knowing what it's like to work for an organization. So giving visibility to what it's like to work for you from the outside is going to be key. So your steps to begin storytelling. I have a checklist here. No matter where you are in your employer brand journey, you can start at any point, but here's a pretty comprehensive list of steps that you can take to start storytelling for employer branding. The first step, and I'll jump into each of these in just a second, is to find your employer value proposition. Then define your EVP content pillars. Harness employee voices, share your story, apply across the candidate journey, and then track success. So the first part here is to find your EVP, your employer value proposition. That is literally the mix of financial and non-financial benefits that you offer your employees in exchange for their tenure within the company. And it's the North Star that guides how you engage with candidates and employees. It gives direction to your messaging, and also it answers the question, why should someone do this job at your company as opposed to anywhere else? It's basically what makes working at your company unique. And it's very important that you determine this before starting your storytelling journey, as it'll help create that consistency in messaging throughout every touch point of your candidate journey. Then step 2 is to define your EVP content pillars. So once you have what makes your company truly unique, you want to decide what you want to mention in your story, right? The major themes that you want to talk about when you have your overall content strategy. So you need to define your content pillars. You can decide on 2, 3, 4 content pillars, major themes that you want to speak about the most. They will serve as guidance for your messaging across any channel, whether it be social media, your career site, job boards, your marketing collateral, anything. This will foster that consistency in messaging at each touch point. Themes could be challenging work, impact, fun. It could be really a lot of different things depending on what your EVP is. If you don't have your EVP set already, you can already start creating content pillars based on what makes your culture special. What are the themes that pop up the most in your employee opinion surveys, for example? Those are some things that you can start working with to create those content pillars and start using them online. Then it's time to harness employee voices. So before even picking your brand advocates, you can already start sourcing those authentic stories in the organization. Speak to your employees, gather testimonials, source them, and make sure that you're showing them online to give a face to your brand. Then select a few employees across your different departments or offices to be brand ambassadors and share content with them to activate. Here you want them to be briefed on your EVP, what's your story, give them content that they can share and allow them to add their own unique voice. Here it's about helping them build their personal brand by providing guidelines and best practices. It's about training them because it's a win-win situation. They're going to be sharing their brand with your company and be advocates, and in exchange, You're going to help them build their brand. And then it's good to come up with an employer brand hashtag to use, such as Life at NielsenIQ or NielsenIQ Careers. This is a great hashtag style that you can pick to have all of your content in one place. If you use consistently the same hashtag, you can then have a database of content that you can go and engage with as a company or repurpose for the future. And then finally, don't forget your senior leaders. They can be potential influencers. If they're willing, you can take senior leaders who probably have their own networks and followings and a lot of industry knowledge and place them as influencers by sending them to conferences, podcasts, write articles for them, blog posts, make them more visible because you're going to inspire your candidates to want to work for them. Then share your story. With your storytelling content, company-generated content, you want to achieve 4 things, and these are the fundamentals of content marketing. You want to educate people, entertain them, convince them, or inspire them. These are the 4 things that you want to spark with your content. And social media is a great place to reach that talent where it is. Your millennial and Gen Z audiences are there, and your career site can serve as a great content hub and a landing page for any campaign that you decide to run. You can use a mix of company and employee-generated content to reach an even wider audience. And I have one tip for great human content. Show the relatable side of your working environment. Show the celebrations, the jokes, the wins, the failures, what makes working at your company truly special and what makes it a great place to work. People want to see the relatable side of your culture, get that warm feeling from your content, and really see themselves within your working environment. Then now that you have your story, your content pillars, your EVP, and your brand ambassadors, you want to apply this across your candidate journey and humanize each touch point. And here it makes sense to build out a candidate journey, which is similar to a customer journey, mapping out each touch point and humanize each element. So it first starts with awareness. This is when a candidate first hears about your company. They may have seen a recruitment marketing ad. They may have seen an employee post or just a social media post. It could be really anything. This is where a candidate first hears about your company and are exposed to your employer brand. Then they move into the consideration phase. This is where the candidate is curious about your company. So they may look up actively your social media pages. They may look at your corporate site. They may look at your LinkedIn Live page or LinkedIn page in general. And then hopefully they'll move into the interest phase. So here they're actively interested in applying for a position. So they'll maybe look at your Glassdoor ratings. They'll actively search for jobs on your career site. They may ask employees what it's like to work for you. In this phase, candidates are interested in really applying for a position and they're going to play an active role in looking for one. And then they move into the application phase. And this is where the candidate applies for a position. And this is the phase that should be as painless and quick as possible. And finally, they move into the selection phase. So once they're selected by your talent acquisition team, they're going to move through the recruitment process and they're going to speak to your recruiters and the hiring team. This is where people should tell your story because this is the first human contact that they have with someone. And this is where you should really train your people on speaking about your company in a certain way and train them on your EVP selling points. Finally, once the candidate accepts the offer, they're onboarded and hired. Here, you want to integrate them into your culture. So how are you doing that? How are you allowing them to play an active role and including them in your culture from when they start? Also, a very important thing I want to mention is that blackout period that happens from the moment a candidate accepts the offer letter to the moment they're onboarded. There's a period of time in which the candidate hears nothing from the company. So it's a really good idea to keep them excited and engaged with more content to, keep the enthusiasm up before they join and make them feel like they're being cared for. So this is my last slide, track success. So I divide tracking success in terms of humanizing your brand into 3 buckets: brand awareness and engagement, lead generation, and employee engagement. So the first part, brand awareness and engagement. This is where you want to measure how well your post is really performing. So are people interacting with it? Are people seeing it? Are they exposed to your brand? You can pull these types of metrics with a social media management tool, such as Hootsuite, Sprinkler, AgoraPulse, whatever it is that you're using. And some metrics are social media engagement rates, the impressions that you're getting, and then traffic from campaigns, for example. Then lead generation. So how are your initiatives performing for lead generation? Are you having that our hiring ROI from your content. This is where you can check leads from specific campaigns, source of application or hire, and the number of referrals from your employee posts. And finally, employee engagement. This is where you measure how engaged your employees are with your brand and how excited they are to interact with your company and be a part of your company. Happy employees equal more advocacy and referrals. So here you can measure that engagement with seeing reviews and ratings on job boards such as Glassdoor, employee opinion survey response. You can check out what they're saying about you, and then employee shares on social. Are employees interacting with your company content? Are they sharing it? This is a great place to see how engaged your employees are. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope people learned something from this and that you can get out there now and tell your story in the best way possible. I'll open it up to Q&A now.
Any questions from the room? Or not yet? There is one question in online. Hello, Anna, thank you for the presentation. One of the questions is actually, how do you make a story engaging online? Probably you answered partially. The question came before you addressed this topic, but maybe you can give us an example of a story that really made it in the social media.
Yeah, it's to me, a very engaging story, for example, is a campaign around a specific thing that you want to highlight. So I think the most engaging format for example, employee stories is video. So filming employee testimonials and having them talk about a specific topic and create a campaign around that is going to create a very great story and highlight a major theme in your storytelling strategy. So this to me is the most engaging way to create a story. For example, you can have an employee set talk about how they have an impact in their job. This way, you talk about the company, the work that they do. So you highlight what's happening at your company. What are you working on? The cool projects that are happening and that people are working on. And then how they feel like they have an impact every single day, which is something that's very important for candidates. So if that's a major thing that pops up in your EVP, for example, that can be a great way to create engaging content. Video employee testimonials.
Okay, thank you very much. I think a lot of the companies here are actually in the process of, or they have already tried such approaches. One of the questions or one of the challenges that they face is that they became quite mainstream and it's very difficult to be authentic. Actually, if you look at several employer branding videos from several companies, you just need to change the logo, but then everything else is almost the same. Or is mainstream okay and it brings results? So that's also the type of answer. It's not an issue. But how would you address this question or this challenge?
I think the best way to address this challenge, because it's true, instead of posting that polished company content, so like an employee headshot of someone saying something in a polished, like well-curated way, I would really focus on user-generated content. So have your employees film themselves, have them walk around the office or walk around their home office and talk about a specific topic. This is how you can make it more authentic, because even though a lot of companies don't like those shaky iPhone pictures and videos, those are the ones that seem the most credible and human. So having someone create that content themselves is going to be super good in elevating your authenticity, elevating your engagement, and making it a lot more credible and human.
Any other questions from the room? Okay, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.